Down to the last one, this one being Hume. Uh, Hume seems to be quite confusing to me, but it's actually quite simple, like as far as I've understood. So basically, he agrees with John Locke's empirical standard that there are no innate ideas and all knowledge comes from experience. But he says that Locke left fundamental concepts unexamined, such as the cause and effect or the concept of identity. So, to explore how the mind works, Hume introduced the concept of perceptions. He categorized the contents of the mind as perceptions, which are divided by their liveliness. Impressions are vivid and lively, encompassing sensations, passions, emotions, whereas ideas are faint copies or faint images of those impressions. These are concepts. These are weaker derived perceptions of the impressions. So we can think of these like events that we have actually lived through. The impressions that we had. For example, we saw someone and that formed an impression event. Whereas when we think about it, we think about the idea of that guy. You know, this empirical axiom states that all constituents, so all members of our thoughts, are products of our impressions. We can distinguish between perceiving and thinking simply by the vividness of the perception. Think about it. When you think about it, literally, you can know that you're thinking about it because it's not as vivid as it would be if it were happening right in front of you. There is a simple and there is a complex perception. Every simple idea is a resemblance of a simple impression that preceded it. For example, a person born blind cannot have an idea of color, and someone who has never tasted pineapples cannot have an idea of their taste. Simple impressions. Whereas complex perceptions are made up of simple constituents. This means this is similar to the simple versus complex of Locke. So he's just really building on top of it. For instance, the impression of an apple is complex because it unites separate, simple impressions of taste, color, and smell. You can smell the apple, you can look at the apple, and you can taste the apple. But even if we have never seen a golden mountain, we can form the complex idea of one by combining our existing ideas into what we believe would look like a golden mountain. Complex emotions like hope, fear, desire are impressions of reflection. These arise from reflecting on previous experiences, leading Hume to conclude that all perceptions ultimately trace back into initial impressions of sense. So, as we talked about it previously, reflection is thinking about being aware that you're thinking as engaging in cognitive activities. These are reflections. So, when we look at the critique of cause and effect, we see that there's an illusion of necessary connection. When we claim that event A causes event B, we are asserting a necessary connection between them, rather than an accidental occurrence. For example, let's say you were just chilling one day, you were scratching your chin, and you hit a jackpot. Okay? You're at the casino, you were scratching your chin, ding, ding, holy shit, me scratching my chin caused me to get a jackpot. No, that's just something that just happened. This is a contiguous occurrence, as he calls it. These are not causally connected. He demands we examine if we ever actually experience causing. Okay? He argues that we only ever experience one event occurring immediately after another. We never witness the first event actively making the second happen, meaning we never directly experience a necessary connection. So he proves this further with a example of a pool, for example, or of a ball. When you hit a ball and it hits another ball, it moves it somewhere, probably through the direction that you threw it from. But if you had never seen it before, if you had never seen this event occurring, then you wouldn't know where it would go. He says that we derive ideas from repeated observations of one object consistently following another. This is what causes us to have this relation of cause and effect. So it's merely a theoretical construct created by the human mind without any actual basis in experience. Okay? Makes sense? Kinda. I mean, it does make sense. If you do not see something happening, then you can only guess what happens after. You cannot know. But when you see it multiple times, then you can have a better guess of what will happen. This is what he calls customs. A custom is when we use past experiences to make inferences about the future. We don't use reasoning here, we use custom. He basically says you don't have reasoning when this occurs, you have custom. Custom is a mental principle that associates cause and effect after experiencing constant conjunction. Our minds are conditioned to anticipate the same effect whenever the initial event occurs. So he just says, as a human, you don't think. It just happens. Fuck you. I guess that's what happens. But there is a notable objection to this. He says that you need to experience an event more than a single time, repeated multiple times. But, for example, imagine a child, he goes up to an open flame, he touches it, ouch. What will the child do the next time he sees an open flame? If he is not dumb, stupid, then he will not touch it again because he would have learned this cause and effect of touch and pain. So, this challenges Hume by saying a single burn establishes anticipation without repeated constant conjunction. And that is Hume.